Everybody, and a very happy Thursday to you today. It's great to be with you this evening, and I'm very excited for the next hour or so that we're going to be hanging out here on the Altenew live channels. Give a wave as you're jumping in. It's always great to see folks and some new faces and some old friends as well. My name is Sarah, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour, give or take a little bit, and I'm going to be playing with some metallic watercolors. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the cool things about the metallic watercolors and also a couple of techniques, some tips, and a couple of projects as well. So it's great to see folks jumping in. Hi, Marie in Sacramento. Hi, Vanessa and Lynn and Gwen and Liz. It's wonderful to see you all here. And Nancy, she's in sunny but cool San Francisco. Pipolata is in Cologne. Hi, I'm in Hamburg, Germany. So we're kind of neighbors. Naomi is in the UK. Wonderful to see everybody. Hi, Cece. It's always good to see your name pop up. And Cheryl, great to see you. Carmen and Jenna in Zimbabwe. How very cool. We are so very glad that you're all here. And we're also joined by the lovely Kathleen. She will be behind the Altenew badge tonight, so waving to Kathleen. And she will be popping in links for the products that I'm going to be playing with today and showing. So a couple of other things, lots of you have joined us many times before. So you know that if you share tonight's live while we are live, then you can be entered in for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So because we're both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, I really wish I could be in two places at the same time in real life. What you'll want to do is after you share today's video, then go ahead and post in the comments and let us know that you shared, and you can also let us know how you shared. That's great too. So hi, Anne Hildegard, also in Germany. Oh, this is great. Vanessa, Gwen, Alejandra in Peru. We're quite an international bunch today. Trish is in Manchester in the beautiful UK. Fantastic to see everybody. So tonight what I'm going to do is share with you some techniques and some tips and just kind of have a play with the Altenew metallic watercolors. So the box may look familiar to you. Two things I hear from people about metallic watercolors, and usually lots of different kinds of watercolors, is that they're not sure that they want to use them because they're not a painter, they're not a watercolorist, they're not an artist, whatever that means. So I hear that from people. And I also hear, sometimes more often, that they love the watercolors, they love any watercolors, they have them, and they haven't used them. Or maybe they took them out, did a little kind of fiddling around, and then put them away. So what we're going to do hopefully today is share some fun and easy ways that you can use your metallic watercolors or any watercolors and have a bit of a play. And maybe this will inspire you to get them out if you put them on a shelf somewhere or to have a go. So we'll be playing with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 techniques today in different ways that we can use our metallics. So what I'm going to do first of all is tilt down my camera so that you can see my work surface. Let me put something nice on my work surface first. I'll get out the watercolors so it'll look a little bit more inviting. And hello to everybody who has joined while I've been chatting away. Vanessa ordered them and you're waiting for them to come in the mail. Cool. Sister Susan Amnesia. That's a great name. She's joining us from Canada. Naomi, Amanda, Daniel. It's great to see you all. So welcome. Okay, I'm going to change my camera here. There we go. Hopefully you can see that okay. And let's take a look. So first of all, let's start with the watercolor set. Now, when you get yours, it'll come in a nice metal tin like this. It's quite compact, actually, which I really like. I have a pretty small crafting area, so efficiency is always really important to me. So it fits quite nicely in among my other things. It's a nice manageable size. Now, when you open this up, you've got 14 colors, and they all come in these little pans. You'll see here, I've got the colors on here from garnet and copper to bronze, enchanted gold, gold pearl, and so on. The labels on here I did myself with my label maker because I like to keep them all organized this way, but you can do the same thing. What's nice about these, two things. One is that they come out. All of the pans will come out, and they are all labeled by Altenew. So you don't have to do this part. If you want, you can do this, but they're all labeled, which is really nice because it's easier, I think, to keep track of things this way. So easy to use, easy to pop them just right out of the container. Of course, you've got the wells in here for doing your mixing and so on. So super easy and convenient. Now, the other thing I want to show you, because this I find comes in really handy, and sometimes people don't notice it or they forget about it. On the Altenew website, they have two swatches. This is one of them. This is on the metallic watercolor set. This, if you print it out just the way it is, like on your regular home printer, you'll get kind of a good idea. I mean, depending on your printer, it won't be totally perfect and true to color, but you'll get a good idea of what's included. So everything from the sterling silver and on over to jade. And you'll notice that they have them on a black surface as well as a white surface. So the other thing I recommend you do is print off the blank swatch page. And so this will come just black with little spaces for each one and the labels on here. And then what you can do is add your own swatch colors on here. So what I've done, I printed this off onto like regular copier paper, and then I just cut down some watercolor paper and just did a quick scribble of each of the colors. This way I have something that I can sort of refer to when I'm working with the metallics, especially if I haven't taken them out for a while, you know, and I kind of need to go, what was the difference between bronze and copper, or citrine and gold pearl, for example. This gives me a nice quick look. It's also something that I really recommend when you buy a new set of any paints, or whether they're watercolors, acrylic paints, even the water brush markers, is sit down and do a quick swatch like this. And Altenew very often has the blank swatch sheets on their website, so you can print this off and you can add them in there. It's just a nice way to get used to your new metallics and kind of give them a try. It's also just kind of a fun way to have something that you can refer back to. Okay, so these are the swatch sheets. You can see you've got some really nice warm colors in here, the gold pearl, enchanted gold, bronze, all the way through to the garnet, which is just a really lovely kind of a rosy red. Then you also have some cool colors in here too. So take advantage of that too. And that's really, I think, kind of unusual to have nice warm colors as well as the cool colors too. So when I tilt this, I think you can see the shine on there. So you can go big, big and shiny if you want to. You can go cover the whole, paper if you want to. You can really, really take advantage of this. Or you can also use these in very subtle ways too. So whatever your style is, you can go very shiny and colorful. And I'll show you one that I did with the topaz that is quite shiny and colorful. You can also do very subtle techniques, especially with those golds. And you can see here the silver pearl, I've got it on white and I've got it on black. So just as a reminder, all of these will look beautiful on both light and dark cardstock. I would also suggest too, we tend to either go white or black. Don't forget navy blue, dark chocolate brown. All of those colors can be incorporated into your metallics as well. And they're a nice opacity too, so you get some really vivid color. So I'm just going to tilt this for another minute or two because it looks so pretty. Okay, so what about techniques? What can you do with these? Let's jump right in and take a look. So I'm going to set this aside here. I'm working on my craft mat, which needs a bit of a clean here. I've been using this a lot lately. So this is also going to be my palette. This is the Altenew craft mat. And I'm going to have out my paints. Now, I'll probably pop out some of the individual colors and work with them individually, just make it a little bit easier. And I've got several card projects. I'm going to start with the first one. They are all using the same stamp set. And the stamp set, let me grab it here, is one of my all-time super extra favorites, which is why it looks a bit rough because I've used it a lot. This is the Leaf Canopy set. You've got outline stamps, so really beautiful leaf design, large and small. And then you also have the silhouette design. Now this one, some of the black is coming off of the liner, but you can see that beautiful design. Lots of sentiments on here from hello, life is better with friends, stay awesome, my friend, congratulations, sending lots of love. So it's a great combination, especially for techniques like this, because of course you can stamp your image and paint it in. It's a really great way to use any of your coloring mediums. So that's what I did here, and I figured we could start off with this, just some simple stamping and coloring in. As I'm tilting this though, I'm hoping that you're able to see there's some shine on here because I also did some splattering. I like to do a little bit of splattering, so wanted to point that out to you too. So let's get into the stamping. First of all, I'm going to set aside my paints and grab my Misty. Let's pop this open. Yeah, Gwen says my mat and stamp set are well loved. Yes, so is my stamp positioner. And that's because I use them a lot. So yeah, I believe in using them lovingly, of course. Okay, so I'm going to pop in some watercolor cardstock. Now, Altenew has a watercolor cardstock, which is lovely. That's what I'm going to use for all of these projects. You can also use a good, sturdy, smooth cardstock if you want to, so that's also an option. And I'm going to grab the 2 outline stamps on here. So let me pull this off. That's going to be one, and this one down here. Sue says you're the queen of spattering. You know, I try to resist sometimes and think, oh, maybe I'm doing too much spattering, but I know a lot of folks really like the spattering, so I have a good time with it, and these are perfect for spattering. And for those who are maybe new to spattering, oh, don't worry, I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to pop these both down here and get my magnets in place. I'm planning to have a sentiment here, so I'll leave this area open. Now, here's one thing. Because I will be painting in the outline images on here, I want to make sure that I'm not using a dye-based ink pad. If I do, it will probably smear when I add my watercolor. So I recommend that you go with the pigment ink. This is the Obsidian. And this is one that I just tend to use all the time anyway, but for this, you definitely want to have something that's going to stay in place. And this will give you a beautiful, crisp image too. Okay, that's another, this is another item that, as you can see, is well loved too. Most of my Altenew stuff gets well used and well loved. Okay, just smooth this down and make sure that I've got everything. I think I need a second go. Let's give another quick inking here. And then pop this down. Okay, so now what I'll do is just carefully move this out of the way. I've got a baby wipe. I can clean this up and then also just kind of give my stamps a quick clean as well. Okay. And pop those back onto the sheet. And then we can get to our watercoloring. So you can see just how fun those big, beautiful open leaves are, and would be great for any coloring medium, really, if you're using the water brush markers or you're using regular watercolors, colored pencils, whatever you have. You can do a lot of really beautiful coloring techniques with this. So I'm going to grab the citrine. This is one of my favorite colors, and this is just a beautiful, I don't know, it's like it's not a bright gold like these two here. It's something warmer. It's cooler than the bronze, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's called citrine. You can always tell because they've got it labeled on the back, and it is just a beautiful, versatile color. So this is the only one I'm going to be using. Now, what I am also using is an Altenew water brush. And I've got a whole handful of water brushes here. You can use a paintbrush for this technique. For another technique later, I'm going to use a bit wider brush, but this one will do the trick because it's got a nice fine tip to it. Okay, so we'll move this aside. I also have a mister bottle with some water. So I'm just going to mist some water in here and then just give a second and let that water and the paint react to one another. Okay, and just mix this in a little bit. Of course, the more water you use, the more diluted your color will be. So play it by ear. You can always just do a quick test. Ooh, look at that. See how pretty that is and how beautiful that shimmer is. Super easy to do. Okay, so I'm going to just pop in some color. I'm not worried about being too perfect with this because I'm going to do a little bit of blotting and some splattering. So it's okay if it's not 100% perfect, although you can certainly do that if you want. It's really up to you. But the thing with watercolors is that they're really pretty forgiving, and they can go either really precise, or you can also use them in kind of a messy or more casual way. Okay. Just look at this. Ooh, it's so pretty. The darker the colors or lighter, just depending on the look that you're going for. And you can see how quickly this is coming together too. Okay. Now, when you do this, I do suggest you get one of the water brushes or at least a paintbrush that's got a fairly fine tip when you're coloring something in. The paints are a little bit opaque, even if you have quite a bit of water in them. So if you're going over the stamped lines, you won't obliterate them entirely, but you can kind of mute them down so that they're not quite so crisp. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. Do a little bit of this too. And then down here at the bottom. Now you can see why I love this leaf canopy set. It's just such a versatile design. And again, no matter what your coloring agent of choice is, whether it's watercolors or colored pencils or other kinds of paints, this is a lot of fun. And it has a really nice modern look to it. Okay, here we go. So, nearly done. So this is our first technique. It's just stamping and a simple coloring in. But what you do want to remember is that you're using an ink that is not going to smear when you add a watery medium on top. So your dye-based ink pads are probably not the best option, even if you're really careful and don't go over the lines and so. So what you could do is let this dry, and you'll have a really beautiful effect. You can also come back, and in this case, I'm going to have a dry cloth, And I'll come back in with my mister bottle and just give a couple more spritzes and reactivate some of that and just do a bit of blotting. Now, when I do this, I'm kind of turning this around so I'm working with a clean area, but this will help the color sort of spread to the edges of the leaves, and it gives you a little bit of a halo effect around your stamped image. So it kind of tones things down a little bit. So that's another option for you. So you can stop at any one of these points in the game. Now, another thing I want to do is add in my spattering. And this time I'm going to bring in a complementary color. So the enchanted gold is going to go really nicely with that citrine. And again, I need my brush. And I need to get some water in here. And kind of let that react. Dry this up just a little bit. And then I'll come in here and just do the spattering. So to do the spattering, many of you guys know this, you'll just get whatever your medium is on the tip of your brush, hold it perpendicular to your surface, and then tap the barrel with your hand, and you will get a spattered effect. It looks really nice with the gold. And this can be used in combination with any technique, really. So you don't have to be doing all metallic watercolors or all watercolors. You could do that gold metallic spatter for just about anything. And then all you need to do is let this dry. Now, I've got a pretty wet sheet in between my painted in image and then my spattering on here. So what I'd suggest you do is set it aside and let it air dry. You can also speed up the dry time with a heat tool. When you do that, you can heat from the top. You can also heat from underneath. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's a little bit curved because I've got so much water going on the front of it. So if you zap it with a heat tool from the front and from the back, then you tend to even this out a little bit. So that is our first quick and easy technique. And then again, let me move this out of the way. Again, here we have our card project. Now for this, I've mounted it onto a black card base. And I did that because I wanted to keep things pretty clean and simple. I also wanted to coordinate with the really nice high contrast black ink on here because it does really give a nice classic effect. Then I have my thank you stamped on here and just popped up with some foam tape. And I added a little bit of that gold embroidery thread, which is also Alta New. I've got a great big spool of it, which is good because I use this a lot. And a little bit goes a long way just to add another little metallic something in there. So quick and easy to do. Okay, so that is our first one. Now let's take a look at another card idea, and this is going to be stamping with our metallics. So I'm going to move aside this one and bring in this card, and you'll notice on here this really soft metallic image on here. These are the silhouette. So we worked with the outline of the leaf canopy. These are the silhouette designs. So we're going to have a go with this. And I'm stamping with my metallics, kind of like an ink pad. Okay, so let me get out. Let's see. I'm going to start putting some things back in to my tray. Give this a little bit of a clean. And then get out my MISTI so we can do some more stamping. I think I just saw, I was trying to catch the questions as I was talking. I think I saw a question about the kind of paper that I'm using. I am using a watercolor cardstock for this. So for all of the cards that I'm going to show you today, all of these are using watercolor. You can use a nice sturdy smooth cardstock if you want to, if that's what you have on hand. I had some watercolor cardstock, so I thought I'd use that because it does really work nicely. Okay, so pop this down in place. And now for this, Again, I'm going to be using the silhouette design of the stamp set. So I'm going to pull these off again. And that's going to be this little image here as well as this one here. I think I'll just do the one so that you can get the gist of it. So let me pull this off here. And set this one aside, and then we'll just kind of have this coming up here like so. Get my magnets all in place. Okay, angle that a little bit. Now this technique is one that I have to say I had to give a little bit of practice to because it's easy to use too much water. So you may want to have a go and give yourself a little bit of learning time on here because you want to have a watery effect that's not too watery. So I'm going to grab the bronze. Yeah, that's the bronze. And let's see. Let's get the copper. And I promise I'll move over to this side a little bit too. Okay, pop those two colors out. And you can see how handy it is that you don't need to have the whole thing out, all the time. So I've got my cardstock on one side. I've got my stamp on the other side. Now for this one, I'm going to use a little bit wider brush. So this is what they call a flat brush. So you can see it's quite thin and flat, unlike something that has a rounded tip to it. Again, I've got my water mister on hand, and I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to mist just a little bit of water into those pans. Let's take a look. I'm not flooding it, but I want to have just a bit of water on here. Now this brush is not totally dry, but not soaking wet either. Okay. And I'm going to start with the lighter color, and I'll pick up some of this more on the flat side of my brush. So I think you can see that. I've got it on here. And I'll apply this onto the stamp. And I'm just brushing it on. Again, this will not be a totally perfect look. It's going to be a bit more of a watercolory look. Okay, so that one was the bronze. Now I'm going to spritz a little more onto my brush and pick up, which one is this? Copper. See how good it is that they have the names on the bottom? It's helpful. Okay, and just add a little bit more on here. And then what I'll do is mist this. Now, sometimes you feel like you have to, drown it. You don't. A couple of spritzes will do the trick. We can always do more, but you kind of can't take it away. Okay. And there we go. I think you can see that even with a bit of the shadow from the camera, you can see that. Now, if I want this to be a little bit more enhanced, again, just add a little bit of, oops, wrong brush. Add a little bit of water on here. The key to this is having as dry of a process as you can without it, with it still having enough water that it can kind of react to things. Okay, and then just a misting of this. And then press. This is a great way to take advantage of the misty being something where you can stamp and restamp and restamp and so on, because then you can really go over it again and again if you want to. And so there you go. And what I like about this effect is that you can tell it's leaves, you can tell it's some type of foliage, but you still have the opportunity, once this is dry, to do some stamping just right on top. And then that way you've got a nice, pretty soft background. If you're doing your stamping on top of this using, again, I would really suggest the obsidian for this one. Then you have a really nice, soft and kind of gentle background and it allows that sentiment to stand out. Now, the sentiment that I have here is from a different stamp set. Let me grab it. Let me clean this actually just quickly. Give it a little mist of water. And that's how I would clean up the watercolors too, by the way, off your stamps. Is just mist with water and use a baby wipe or use a towel or something. So I want to show you this other stamp set quickly. For the sentiment, the sending hugs and happy thoughts, which I think is really nice. That is from the Beautiful Day stamp set, and it's this really nice sentiment on here. Sending hugs and happy thoughts. So this one just happened to work perfectly with the overall design. And again, I used some of that gold embroidery thread and just wrapped it around here. I did do some more gold spattering on the background. Let's see if I can angle it up here so that you can see that. I think you're catching the hints of shine. It's just such a pretty look. And again, just something really, really soft. Now, you can also do this if you have the other watercolor set from Altenew, the regular kind of traditional set. You can do the same technique. So pretty much any of the techniques that I'm showing you today is going to be applicable to those watercolors too. Okay, so now that I've got this effect, I want to show you another twist on this. And let's take a look at some of the other colors in the set, because I know I've been kind of going with some of these bronze colors. Oh, as soon as I set that metal tin down, I thought, oh, it's going to interact with those magnets on here. Let me move aside my Misty and the magnets. And I want to show you another of the techniques. I'll pop those back into place. And this one is using the same process. So again, that watercolor stamping, and then I have over stamped it. So with this stamp set, you've got, as I mentioned, you've got the silhouette design, which we used for this card. And you also have the matching outline, which we used for this card. So you can use them separately, but you can also use them together, okay? And that's what I've done on here. Now I have a couple of different options for you with this, but let's take a look. First of all, let's do some stamping. And again, get out the Misty and a piece of watercolor cardstock. And I will use, again, that large silhouette motif. I think it's dry and pretty clean. And pop this down. Okay, so again, I'm going to get my magnets in place here. When you're doing a lot with water on your Misty, do make sure that you clean off this side, because if it's wet and you put your stamp on here, it can tend to slide off. So just dry this up a little bit. Okay. So then this is ready to go. Now for this one, I'm going to use some little bit non-brown color. So I'm going to go over to the jade. Let's get out jade. Let's do the Braciolite and aquamarine. Get that one too. And pop this to the side. Okay, so I've got three beautiful colors that are going to work together. And I'll clean off my brush, because again, I do want to use a brush that has a little bit more surface area. Let's see, I think I can use this one too. Ooh, that one is definitely not clean. So let me clean off my other one here, so that it is not soaking wet, but it's a little bit damp to the touch. And mist in some of those colors. And I'm going to do the exact same process I did before. I'll start with the lighter color, and this is the aquamarine. Kind of dab that color on here. Okay. Again, not being too particular about which way it's going. And then we'll do, this is the jade. So again, this is damp, but not really wet. Get these little fluffs off of here. And remember, you can always go back and add more color. And then this is the third, this is the Prasiolite. Tap this color on. Okay. Now my little mister bottle. Leave a bit of a mist there and then close this up. And you can see on the misty, you can see where it connects the stamp with the water. And I'll lift that off. Ooh, I really like that. Now I noticed I have a little bald patch up here. So I will get just a bit more color. And I can add as much as I want to on here. Again, restraint is going to be key to this. And then just pop this down. Okay. Really soft and pretty. And I love those greens together. Now, you can leave it this way as we did before with this other card, or you can add a little bit of definition. So to do that, clean this off and move it to the side. I'm going to keep this in here. And ideally, you would wait until this is dry, but we'll go ahead and push it. The next thing that I can do is add some definition by using the outline stamp. So this matches the silhouette. And you just need to line it up. And we'll see if I can line it up okay here. I'm going to do my best. Position this down. And then pull this back and lift. Now you could use whatever other inks you have. You could use the Obsidian. And I'm going to use the Antique Gold pigment ink. So this is another fun way of mixing your metallics. So this is the pigment ink. It is in a metallic gold. So you know it's going to coordinate with all of those lovely bronzes and citrines in the watercolor set. There's also another, it's enchanted gold. Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong. So there are two beautiful gold pigment inks, and either one will do the trick. If you want something really high definition, you could use, of course, our favorite Obsidian. But for this one, I'm going to go with the Antique Gold because I do want some definition, but I also want to have a little bit of softness to it. And I'm going to close this up. And open this. I love this. This is one of the reasons why I love this stamp set so much. And I'll hold it up. Hopefully you can see that okay. I think this is just probably one of the easiest ways to get a really simple, elegant look. It's got some metallic, it's got some shine, but it's not overwhelming. So this could be, quite frankly, a really simple thank you card like I've got here. Thank you for all the thoughtful things you do. I think you could also say that something like this would be really nice as a sympathy card or a wedding card or so many different occasions because it is really pretty soft and gentle. So that is our third technique. Okay, so I think you can see you can really have a lot of fun with this set. I've got one more that I want to show you. But before we get into that, I'm just going to do a quick cleanup here. And for this one, I've already done my stamping portion. So I can set aside my, my Misty. And I can show you, because I've already done the heat embossing, and I'll show you the card project that I finished as well. And this is using our metallic watercolors with embossing powder for a resist technique. So you can see I've stamped and heat embossed all of those beautiful leaf canopy designs onto watercolor cardstock and then added the metallics around here. So just a quick rundown of what I've used for this. I'm not going to demonstrate the embossing because I think many of you have seen this before. So I thought I'd just show you the supplies that I've used. I've got the embossing ink, which is what I've stamped with, and then I embossed with the rose gold. So those are kind of my go-to combinations for heat embossing because that rose gold gives you just a beautiful classic effect. Again, like we did with our antique gold ink pad, you can mix your metallics. So you can go outside of the sphere of the metallic watercolor set and you can add in some other colors. Okay, I'll move this aside. You can see how that has been colored, obviously with some of these beautiful rich colors here. So I have the topaz, I'll get out, and the amethyst, and then I can put back all of my greens here, the jade, and here's the aquamarine. So you can see how nice it is that they can just pop right out. Now also for this technique, because I'm going to be sort of covering a large amount of space, I'm going to be painting over all of this, using a very fine tip brush takes a really long time. So I'm going to use something a bit wider. I'm just going to clean this off quickly, somewhat. And what will happen is that I'm going to end up with the embossed areas are going to act as a resist to the watery medium. That's why it is also really important that for this technique, it is really good that you use a watercolor cardstock because you're going to be adding quite a bit of water on here. So you want to make sure that you have something sturdy. So in this case, I'm going to pop these over here. I'm going to mist both of these pretty heavily, and I'm going to mist my cardstock. Now, what I like to do to avoid things curling is mist the front and the back. Okay, so that's just a quick misting. I'm going to take my watery brush and pick up some of this color. Again, what you can do, where's my scrap piece, is kind of see how intense that color is before you start applying it onto your real cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and just add this on here. And I can go right over the embossed area because I can get rid of that later. I'm going to add a little bit of this beautiful purple, kind of come into some of the areas, overlapping a little bit. Maybe do some up here. If you find that it's maybe a bit more intense than what you want, a little bit of a spritz. If you're working on your craft mat, you can kind of go over the edges. I think I saw some comments there that my craft mat is looking well loved. It is stained. I use it every day. I never put it away. So I guess that's just kind of what happens. And I'm okay with it because, of course, that's sort of what it's there for. I do clean it with, I rinse it off and I use like some liquid dishwashing soap to clean it. But I think sometimes also, depending on what kind of medium you're using, sometimes it will just stay on there, which I don't really mind. Okay, add a little bit more of this in here. I've got something on here that I want to get rid of. A little blip of something. Okay, so this is looking quite pale in a lot of places. If I wanted to, I can get a little bit more water on here and really puddle it on. And you can see how those leaves will be really lovely resist effect. And I'm cleaning off my brush a little bit, just kind of getting some more water on here in between, switching those colors. So this is where you can go as intense or as pale as you want to. Okay, and you can see where this is beading up on here. This is where you can come in with a baby wipe. You can use a piece of paper towel or cloth or so on, and just blot away, just pick up some of that excess color. And I'm turning this around as I go. I've got it kind of wrapped around my finger. And pick up some of that excess. And then again, what you want to do is let this dry. Generally, you will have a slightly paler, slightly softer effect when it is all dry. You can certainly reactivate it as well if you want to. So you can do a couple of different techniques in here too. The possibilities are pretty much endless. So what I would do then is just leave this on my craft mat, maybe kind of swoop up some of this puddly bit on here and leave this to air dry. But if you are in a hurry, you can zip zap that with your heat tool and speed up that dry time. So this is with the two really beautiful intense colors. Now we've also played with some lighter colors, so of course that will give you a different look as well. Now one thing, let's see, I'm going to bring this back in so we can see. Now I didn't use quite the intensity as I did here on this one. This is much paler and softer. So whatever look you like, go for it. The oval is from one of the die sets that I use so much. Let's see, do I have it on hand? This is from the framed die set. As you can see, I have a lot on hand. I always like to use those. And I also used the Bold Thanks die. So this is a two-parter. You've got a silhouette and then you've got all of the individual letters, which you then adhere onto that silhouette piece. So they just nest right in there. So that way you can have the backing and you've got the sentiment on the front. And again, a little bit of metallic gold ribbon in there, thread in there, and that will kind of help to tie everything together. Now the fun part about this for me too was I've got this mounted onto a pink card base, but you can also really play with a lot of the different techniques and kind of say, oh, would I want to put it onto blue, or I could put it onto like kind of a seafoam green, like with this one. Looks really pretty on that color. You could also put it on this color. You could put it on both. I mean, you could really have a lot of fun with just mixing and matching your backing papers and your card bases with this. Now, I do also want to show you, if you like the intense version, here's a similar card, slight variation, where I really went to town with just the topaz and used that as my backing. What I did after, or actually while everything was still wet, I added some more water in there and just kind of did some flicking with the water. So I'm misting just my fingers on here and kind of letting that flicker in there. And if you do this when the paint is slightly starting to dry, you can get some really cool reactions. Kind of like if you've ever added salt into watercolor, you can get some really cool different effects. And that's what I did. Oh, now my hand's all wet. That's what I did with this one here. So it gives a slightly mottled effect, but it also gives still that really beautiful, intense metallic topaz. And this was also heat embossed with the rose gold. I also edged around the outside edge with the rose gold as well. So again, just a little extra bit of the metallic. So keep in mind too, when you're using your metallic watercolors, if you have these somewhere in your crafting stash and you decide, oh yeah, this weekend I'm going to get these out and have a bit of a play, don't forget that you can also mix in some of your other metallics, whether that is embossing powder or ink or the even just the embroidery thread. You can still have a lot of fun with those. Okay, do I have anything else to show you? Yes, in fact, I do. So this was one piece that I did just quickly. I haven't made a card with it or anything, But I did the embossing, all of the embossing with the silhouette design, again, using that rose gold, and just added little touches of, I think this was the bronze. So again, just another way to say, depending on which way you wanted to have this on your card, vertically or horizontally, you can get some really bold, colorful looks. You can also get some quite soft silhouette looks. You can stick with one color. You can work in lots of different colors. So I think it is just a lot of fun to have a play with this. So now this is wet. I'm going to be careful about this and just let this dry overnight. I will just quickly turn back the camera and then I'll show you the cards again. So hang in there with me. I'm going to change back the camera so we can see each other again. So I hope that this has been an inspiring session for you. I hope that if you've been wondering about the metallic watercolors, what do I do with them? Are they worth the money? That kind of thing. Hopefully this gives you a little bit more information. Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a lower price today on the metallic watercolors. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. And if you have them already and you haven't used them for a while, or you got them and now you're like, I don't know what to do with them, hopefully you got a few good ideas and just some ways to have a play. So you can stamp and color in. You can do the basic coloring. Don't forget, you can do some misting and some blotting on there. You can also stamp with them. So just remember, have some restraint when you're working with water, but you can get some really beautiful silhouette designs. You can do your silhouette stamping and then stamp over I really love this look, and stamp over it for a little bit more definition. You can also, whoops, where did it go? You can also do, oh, here it is. You can also do some resist effects using embossing powder. You can do quite a light look, light effect. You can also go a little bit bolder. So don't forget, you can also mix and match those metallics and hopefully have a lot of fun creating your metallic watercolor designs, cards, tags, scrapbook pages, and a lot more. So I want to say a big thank you to you for joining me today. Thank you to Kathleen for popping in all of the links and keeping us updated. We will be coming back. I will be coming back on Monday for another live. And this time, I've got it way over here. This time, I'm going to be working with the Book Engravings stamp set. This is a layering stamp set, a really easy one, kind of just a quick two-step process. So I'll be demonstrating that. I was working on these projects today, and this is one that I will demonstrate. It's a beautiful stamp set. Really easy to do, great if you like very simple layering, great if you like big florals. So we will be doing that on Monday, and same time, same place. So hopefully you can pencil us into your calendar and come join us. So big thank you to everybody for joining us today. Thank you to Kathleen. Thanks for sharing today as well. Always just really delighted that you're here and hanging out with us, and hopefully you have a lot of inspiration and have a lot of fun. Okay, take care, everybody, and I will see you again on Monday, hopefully. All right, bye-bye.